cause of
Well, I
death
don't
has
know
not
what
been
I was gonna show this one for, but I ain't gonna lie, it's just 25 minutes. So, and how long is the video already? Shoot, I guess I'm finna have a little 3 hour one, but hey, it's okay, cause you know what I'm saying. What a wonderful time today.
confirmed, but many sources point to his 2024 minor stroke and long-standing health issues, including his diabetes. With over 2 decades in the rap game, Irv Gotti was the mastermind behind countless #1 hits, shaping the sound of the early 2000s. From his meteoric rise to his label's rocky downfall, his impact on hip-hop remains undeniable. So today we're going to take a dive into the life, legacy, and untimely loss of a true music legend. For those new to the channel, we approach stories through the lens of gematria, an ancient alphanumeric code rooted in Kabbalah, aka Jewish mysticism. This intricate system isn't just a relic of the past, it's embedded in the very fabric of modern media, subtly shaping the way major world events, celebrity deaths, and historical moments unfold. Think of it as the missing key, the glue that binds seemingly unrelated events together. At first glance, the news may appear random. A series
And I ain't gonna lie. Okay, so I will say this: gematria will help you understand it faster than the route that I took. Cause I ain't gonna lie, pretty much studying this shit for a cool minute. I've been watching conspiracy shit and searching up my own shit for a cool minute. I'm talking about since motherfucking pretty much a kid in like elementary. Cause I said this in some of my other videos, but nigga, it started off with like, do you think Tupac and Biggie is really did they really kill him? And then searching them videos up on YouTube to, you know what I'm saying, actually prove that, you know what I'm saying, that they not or whatever. Or and then it turned to the flat earth. Do you believe earth is really a globe or flat?
of coincidences playing out before
So
our eyes.
all and I pretty much I've been studying this shit since before I even understood what the fuck I was really even watching. So now all them puzzle pieces is pretty much coming together and I can connect them all together now. But so saying that to say this gematria will pretty much connect it faster than yeah, just trying to learn and watch all this shit and study it and you know searching up shit which would take you years to pretty much kind of understand that way. But yeah,
But once you understand how this system operates, you'll
when I
start to
found
see the patterns.
when I found out about gematria, it pretty much helped me or help pretty much yeah made me realize that what I was watching was actually true or
And
what
when you
I've been saying and seeing was actually true.
do, you'll realize one undeniable truth: nothing is ever as it seems. But before we dive in, as always, let's start with a brief background to understand how it all began. Irv Gotti, born Irving Domingo Lorenzo Jr. on June 26, 1997 in Hollis, Queens, New York, grew up in a neighborhood that was a melting pot of cultures and musical influences. His parents, Irving Lorenzo Sr. and Maria Lorenzo, were of Dominican descent, and they instilled in him a strong work ethic and a deep appreciation for music. Irving was just one of 4 kids, growing up with his 2 sisters and older brother, Chris Gotti, playing a pivotal role in his life and career. The Lorenzo family was tight-knit, and despite the challenges of growing up in a rough neighborhood, Irv and his siblings were encouraged to pursue their passions. Growing up in Hollis, Queens during the 1970s and 80s, Irv Gotti was exposed to the hip-hop scene that was taking root in New York City. As a child, he was fascinated by the music that echoed through the streets, from the soulful beats of R&B to the raw energy of rap. He was particularly inspired by artists like Run DMC, who also hailed from Hollis, and the storytelling of Slick Rick. Irv's love for music was further fueled by his older brother, who introduced him to the art of DJing and mixing records. Irv attended local schools in Queens, where he was known for his charisma and entrepreneurial spirit. Even as a teenager, he had a knack for bringing people together and organizing events, often hosting block parties where he would DJ. These early experiences laid out the foundation for his future career in the music industry. Irv Gotti's entry into the music industry was not a straightforward path. After high school, he worked various odd jobs to make ends meet, but his passion for music never waned. In the early 1990s, he landed an internship at Def Jam Recordings.
How long does THC stay in your system? When you consume THC,
one of the most influential hip-hop labels of the time. This opportunity was a turning point in his life, as it allowed him to learn the ins and outs of the music business from some of the industry's biggest names, including Leor Cohen, the then president of Def Jam. Irv's talent and dedication quickly caught the attention of his superiors, and he was promoted to A&R executive. In this role, he was responsible for scouting and developing new talent, a job that allowed him to hone his skills as a producer and music executive. It was during this time that he began working closely with artists like Jay-Z, DMX, and Ja Rule, helping to shape their careers and contributing to the success of Def Jam. In 1997, Irv Gotti, along with his brother Chris Gotti, decided to strike out on their own and form their own label, Murder Inc. Records. The name was inspired by the infamous crime syndicate of the same name that operated in New York during the 1930s and 1940s. The label was initially launched as a subsidiary of Def Jam with Leor Cohen's support. This partnership provided Murder Inc. with the resources and distribution network needed to compete in the highly competitive music.
But you see how his story still wasn't really all the way, like, you know what I'm saying? How on other people's that we just watched, we got a little bit more of a whole piece story. With him, you don't really know like how he got into the industry. He just somehow started making music or something like that, and then like there's really no really like. I guess I think he gonna keep on talking about it. So let me just keep
industry. Irv's vision for Murder Inc. was to create a label that blended the gritty realism of street life with the melodic sensibilities of R&B. This unique approach would set Murder Inc. apart from other labels and help it achieve tremendous success in the early 2000s. The early 2000s were a golden era for Murder Inc. Records, thanks in large part to the success of its flagship artists, Ja Rule and Ashanti. Ja Rule, who had been signed to Def Jam under Irv's guidance, became one of the most recognizable faces in hip-hop, with a string of hit singles and albums that dominated the charts. His collaborations with Ashanti, who was discovered by Irv and signed to Murder Inc., produced some of the most memorable songs of the era, including Always on Time and Mesmerize. Ashanti's self-titled debut album, released in 2002, was a commercial juggernaut, selling over 500,000 copies in its first week and eventually going triple platinum. The album earned Ashanti a Grammy Award for Best Contemporary R&B Album and solidified her status as one of the leading voices in R&B. Ja Rule's albums such as Pain is Love in 2001 and The Last Temptation in 2002 were equally successful, with Pain is Love debuting at number 1 on the Billboard 200 and earning a Grammy nomination for Best Rap Album. Murder Inc. Records was riding high, with its artists consistently topping the charts and earning critical acclaim. The label's success was a testament to Irv Gotti's ability to identify and nurture talent, as well as his innovative approach to blending hip-hop and R&B. But despite its success, Murder Inc. Records faced significant challenges in the mid-2000s, most notably a highly publicized feud with rapper 50 Cent. The beef between Ja Rule and 50 Cent, which had been simmering for years, escalated into a full-blown war of words and diss tracks, and you guys probably know the rest. 50 Cent, who was signed to Eminem's Shady Records and Dr. Dre's Aftermath Entertainment, used his platform to launch a relentless campaign against Ja Rule and Murder Inc., accusing them of being inauthentic and questioning their street cred. The feud took a toll on Murder Inc.'s reputation and commercial success. Ja Rule's albums began to underperform, and the label struggled to maintain its dominance in the face of 50 Cent's rising stardom. Compounding these issues was a federal investigation into Murder Inc.'s finances, which alleged that the label was being funded by drug money. In 2003, the label's offices were raided by federal agents, and Irv Gotti and his brother Chris were subjected to intense scrutiny. Although no charges were ever filed, the investigation cast a shadow over the label and contributed to its decline. In the years following the decline of Murder Inc., Irv Gotti remained active in the music industry, working as a producer and executive. In September 2013, he launched a new label, Visionary Music Group, with the goal of discovering and developing new talent. However, his heart remained with Murder Inc., and on May 29, 2017, he announced the relaunch of the label in partnership with 300 Entertainment, a company founded by Leor Cohen, the same man who had given Irv his start at Def Jam.
At what point did you feel Irv was ready to run a label in contrast to just being A&R?
Till the motherfucker took it from me. Okay,
Okay, I think I remember. I think I was gonna show this video on how how they pick you, I guess, to. Yeah, I forgot. I don't know. I think that was wild, but on something about like how they pick you to be, you know what I'm saying, successful or something like that. You see, he was he wasn't even no artist for real. He was an A&R, and he was close to Leo Cohen, however you say his name. So yeah, that should tell you everything you need to know.
I would have had him still in fucking A&R for Def Jam.
And look how he acts. Somebody that's trying to act like a black down with the crew type. You know what I'm saying? Look, just look at this act, bro.
Label in contrast to just
I'm even zooming in for y'all.
Being A&R.
Till the motherfucker took it from me. Okay, I would have had him still in fucking A&R for Def Jam had he not said, fuck that. I'm making you too much money. And Irv took. Every great person took what they had. I didn't give him shit. He grabbed it, snatched it, and did it on his own. Because I would have had him still A&R for us, had he not had the nuts to go out on his own and bring it. Because, you know, a lot of these A&R people are comfortable as a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you mean.
They prefer being, you know.
No, he throwing up the hand sign. 666 or whatever.
Revered A&R people that don't do dick. Irv, you know, brought it.
What?
And then moved on.
What? Let's take that back. What?
You know, revered A&R people that don't do dick. Irv, you know, brought it and then moved on.
Nigga saying shit just to sound cool.
Happy to have a piece.
The relaunch of Murder Inc. marked a new chapter in Irv Gotti's career, as he sought to recapture the magic that had made the label a powerhouse in the early 2000s. With the support of 300 Entertainment, Irv was able to secure the resources and distribution needed to compete in the modern music industry.
AI can now build a website in 90 seconds, while the only AI most people over 40 know is ChatGPT. Disappear for a month and do this instead.
Using the practice of English gematria and date numerology, along with some history, you'll start to notice how there's much more to this tragic loss than meets the eye. Irv Gotti's passing on February 5th, a date written 2/5, or 5/2 like the number 52, a number we'll revisit later, holds intriguing significance. For instance, the words stroke and death equate to 25 in the full reduction cipher, adding yet another layer of curiosity to the date. For those unfamiliar with the world of numerology and ciphers, let me break it down quickly. The first system is the basic English ordinal cipher, where each of the 26 letters in the alphabet is assigned a number. A equals 1, B equals 2, C equals 3, and so on, up to Z equaling 26. The reverse ordinal cipher simply flips this, so A equals 26 and Z equals 1. Next, we have the reduction ciphers, which involves reducing double-digit numbers to a single digit, hence the term reduction. This method is rooted in Pythagorean numerology. For example, in the full reduction cipher, the letter J, the 10th letter of the alphabet, is reduced to 1, since 1 plus 0 equals 1. Similarly, K, the 11th letter, becomes 2. 1 plus 1 equals 2. This pattern continues for all double-digit numbers, and the reverse full reduction cipher simply inverts the order, much like the reverse ordinal. With that out of the way, let's revisit Irv Gotti's early career through the lens of gematria. He made his first mark in music as a producer and DJ, going by the name DJ Irv for a time. Interestingly, the name DJ Irv equates to 36 in gematria. While speaking on the number 36, it's interesting to see that the word diabetes equals 151, the 36th prime number. And we know from Irv Gotti himself that this has been a struggle for a while. Later, he adopted the name Irv Gotti and co-founded the infamous Murder Inc. Records, often simply referred to as Murder Inc. Here, another fascinating pattern emerges. The name Irv Gotti and the label Murder Inc. share a 51 connection in the reduction ciphers. Even more striking is the fact that Murder Inc. and the date of Irv's passing, February 5th, both equate to 57 in the reduction ciphers when you spell out the date as such. Now, at the time of the recording, Irv Gotti's official cause of death has yet to be announced, but sources have pointed to that stroke he suffered last year. As reported by Hip Hop DX, according to the article, West Coast music manager Wack 100 was the first to publicly reveal Irv's health struggles, sharing a photo on his Instagram of Irv walking with a cane. A representative from Irv's team later confirmed to TMZ that the stroke had occurred months before the news broke, and that Irv had already made a full recovery by the time it became public. Notably, the span of time between Wack 100's Instagram post and Irv Gotti's passing was 163 days. For those familiar, 163 is the 38th prime number, and the number 38 holds significant meaning. Words like murder, death, rapper, and others on this list all equate to 38 in gematria. But alright, now, remember that date, May 29, 2017, the date Irv Gotti publicly announced the relaunch of Murder Inc.? Well, looking at that date, I noticed it had 51 numerology, a number that we know ties directly to both Irv Gotti's stage name and the label Murder Inc. Plus, that date also had 34 numerology when you add the day and month together, and again, he's reviving Murder Inc. Records, emphasis on the word murder. Just another observation, Irv passed away 141 days from what would have been his 55th birthday. Interestingly, the label he ran, Murder Inc., had to use an alternate name for commercial reasons, going by the Inc. Records, which equates to 141 in the basic ordinal cipher. It's worth remembering that Def Jam Recordings was the label that gave Irv his chance to prove his worth in the music industry, allowing him to work his way up the ranks. Notice that Def Jam Recordings equals 151 in gematria, which is the 36th prime number. This ties back to the fact that Irv died on the 36th day of the year, and his earlier stage name, DJ Irv, holds the value of 36 in the reverse reduction cipher. Now, earlier I mentioned we'd come back to the number 52, and it's because it connects to none other than Leor Cohen, the influential figure behind many of your favorite artists. Leor, who comes from Jewish
Just so you ain't think it was a coincidence, here we go again.
descent, was the one who gave Irv and his brother Chris Gotti their shot at owning a label. This is a fitting moment to remind you of the origins of gematria. It stems from Jewish mysticism, and who primarily runs the entertainment industry, from music to film? Well, the you-know-who's. The same group that often is accused of pulling the strings behind presidents and engaging in geopolitical conflicts over land that doesn't belong to them, but that's a topic for another video. But isn't it fascinating that the very man who gave Irv his start in the music business and even helped revive his label 20 years later, Leor Cohen, holds the value of 52? This number not only aligns with words like gematria and Kabbalah, two deeply relevant aspects of his Jewish heritage, but remember, Irv passed away on February 5th, a date written 5/2 in most parts of the world. Plus, February 5th had prime date numerology of 52.
In this legendary space MMO, the heroic acts and merciless betrayals.
Irv, brought it and then moved on. I'm happy to have a piece.
Just 3 days before Irv's passing, the Recording Academy hosted the 67th Annual Grammy Awards. For those familiar with the code, the number 67 ties to phrases like human sacrifice and blood sacrifice, adding a layer of eerie symbolism to the timing of his death. A major hip-hop label owner of Murder Inc. passing away just 3 days after such a high-profile event. But what makes this connection even more eerie is that Irv Gotti earned just one Grammy in his entire career for his production on Foolish by Ashanti on February 23rd, 2003. That date happened to be the 54th day of the year, and 22 years later, just days after the Grammys, Irv Gotti passes away at the age of 54. For some more numerical context, the first album released under the Murder Inc. times Def Jam imprint was Ja Rule's debut, Veni Vedi Veci. Notice how the album's title aligns with the label's full name through the 88 connection in the reduction ciphers. Even more striking is the album's cover art, which features a clear nod to Jesus Christ, a reoccurring theme in rap album artwork, often filled with symbolic and religious imagery.
Showing that they're in showing that they're enlightened.
What's even more fascinating is that many people seem to overlook this reoccurring pattern, despite it being prevalent.
And all that means is that they woken up to the fact that they are not, or that they was being controlled or being puppeted, I guess.
And for decades, we know that many of these rappers are far from religious, so some might dismiss.
And now they're making their own decisions, but they still gotta do the same agenda. They still gotta push the agenda though, but it's just now their decisions, I guess you could say.
It's the symbolism as a tactic for attention or a personal connection to the artist. However, it goes deeper than that. It's important to remember who controls the distribution of your favorite artist's music. Labels owned and operated by individuals of Jewish and Catholic backgrounds at the highest levels. This is where things might start to take a bit of a turn, but stick with me. A perfect example is Ja Rule's debut album cover, with the album's title Veni Vedi Veci holding the value of 74, matching all the words on your screen right now. Think about how these elements tie together. Jesus spoke in parables and his followers spread the gospel, yet notice how words like English, gematria, Lucifer, and energy also align with the same number. This is far from a coincidence. The entertainment industry at its core functions as a source of energy harvesting for the powers that shouldn't be, and those in control have a complex, almost love/hate relationship with Jesus, if you will. This brings us to the Jesuit fingerprints part of the story, where a dive into history helps us better understand how all these pieces connect across time. For those familiar with the channel, you're already well aware of the Jesuits and their complex, often sinister history. While most view the Jesuits as a small sect within the Catholic faith, known for their strong dedication to religion and education, including running some of the world's top colleges and universities, this group wields far more influence than many realize. Despite undergoing significant suppression in the past, the Jesuits have risen to hold the highest rank in the Vatican.
And in my I forgot what video or when I last dropped it, but it was the video reacting to Antonio Talks diaspora, the black diaspora, and Drewski's church comedy skit, and talking about the mega churches, how they be and shit. I said that damn, what did he say? What did he just that everybody has been enslaved, but I guess you could say the indigenous people had it the worst. Us black people had it the worst. And we still are traumatized by it and still being oppressed. But not as much as it was, but it's still to a certain extent.
Pope Francis being the first ever Jesuit pope in the church's history. Their impact extends far beyond religion, shaping much of the world as we know it today. From pioneering early forms of visual entertainment through inventions like the magic lantern created by a Jesuit priest, to co-creating the Hollywood production code, which governed film content for decades, their fingerprints are everywhere. Even the modern educational system, with its class divisions, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, stems from a Jesuit legacy, modeled after the Parisian style of learning that St. Ignatius of Loyola experienced during his studies in Paris. Although this group serves the Catholic faith and is literally named the Society of Jesus, it is worth noting that among St. Ignatius of Loyola, the founder of the society, were his 6 original companions. One of them, Diego Lainez, was referred to as a converso, a term used for Jews who converted to Catholicism in Spain or Portugal, particularly during the 14th and 15th centuries. After the death of St. Ignatius of Loyola, who served as the first superior general of the order, it was Diego Lainez who became the second superior general. Now, to scale it back for a quick moment, this is definitive historical proof that the Jesuit order is comprised of both Catholics and Jews, and it's undeniable that aspects of their faiths have intertwined. This blending of traditions is where some argue that Jesuits faced expulsion from many nations throughout history, often under the suspicion of meddling in politics and the church, as well as harboring crypto Jews within the order, something that was heavily frowned upon at the time. Anyway, you might be wondering, why the hell is this guy rambling on about all of this? Well, it ties back to the topic at hand, Irv Gotti. Remember, Irv named his label after the infamous crime mafia Murder Inc., which operated from 1929 to 1941 before the syndicate was essentially wiped out. And who made up this mafia? Well, none other than Jewish and Catholic mobsters. Isn't that fitting, considering the whole code I'm using to decode this narrative revolves around those two groups? Real quick, I gotta give a shout out to the OG of this knowledge, the one who put
And that's what I'm saying. That's what my next video is gonna kind of be on.
me on, and that's none other than Zach Hubbard over at Gematria Effect News. His video on this had me motivated after a hefty break of not putting out much videos to give my take on the decode, and he's the one that touched on this interesting numerical connection we're about to get into. But yeah, as you can see, the real Murder Inc. Mafia was officially dismantled in 1941, meaning we just passed the 83rd anniversary of their downfall. And get this, the word murder equals 83. Coincidence? Well, maybe not, especially since we're talking about Irv Gotti, the founder of Murder Inc. Records. When digging into the actual Murder Inc., I couldn't help but notice that the man who brought the organized crime mob to its knees after turning government informant, aka becoming a snitch, was known as Kid Twist, or Abe Relis. He died under suspicious circumstances in the early morning of November 12, 1941, at the Half Moon Hotel in Coney Island. Reports claimed he fell to his death from a 6th-floor window. Authorities concluded it was an accident, suggesting he was trying to escape using a makeshift rope made of bed sheets. But of course, most people believe he was pushed to his death to prevent him from testifying against Albert Anastasia, a high-ranking member of the Mafia and overseer of Murder Inc. Anyway, isn't it fitting how Abe of Murder Inc. died on a date with 83 and 38 numerology when the word murder perfectly matches? And remember the two groups pulling the strings here, and how Irv Gotti's death syncs with a crime mob run by those very groups. Irv died at the age of 54, and you could see here that the words Jesuit Order, Sun, which is their logo, and Sun Worship, which is what they truly practice, all equal 54 in their respective ciphers. The logo
And also, I just want to say, I just want to bring this up one more time. Why you think? Hold on, bro. All right. So why you think he's portrayed as the sun, or always with the sun in the background? Well, yeah, it wouldn't let me do it, but I wanted to get a close up. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all of it. But like I said, that's gonna be my next video.
Logo of the Jesuits is the IHS, which happens to equal 36 like DJ Irv, and remember, he passed away on the 36th day of the year. And for those curious, IHS stands for Jesus Hominum Salvator, which is Latin for Jesus, Savior of Mankind. This phrase equates to 266, and it's interesting how Irv's birthday, June 26, can be written as 26/6. Also relevant, the first ever Jesuit pope, Pope Francis, is the 266th pope. Pope Francis's real name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, equals 201, like the Jesuit order. But what are the odds that his primary residency in Vatican City is the Domus Sanctae Martha, where he specifically resides in room 201? And remember where all this knowledge is from: Jewish mysticism, a phrase that equals 201. Another number that holds major significance is 187. This number is notorious in hip-hop since it's the California police code for homicide. And check this out: Murder Inc. records equals 187, just like Society of Jesus. So what are the odds? I mean, it's even crazier that Irv Gotti actually has this number in his IG handle. So ask yourself, does this just happen to be his favorite number, or did he know exactly what it meant? Now, to help reinforce this code, as it's all about pattern recognition, it's important to show these classic examples of Hollywood numerical riddles. From the classic Murder by Numbers cover featuring Sandra Bullock, where they replace the B and the E to a 3 and an 8. And this is because the ones behind the scenes use the practice of gematria and code it into your favorite entertainment. Or how about the classic song released by The Police in 1983, emphasis on the 83, titled Murder by Numbers, where the hook sings, "It's murder by numbers, 1, 2, 3, it's as easy to learn as your ABCs." But people, that's all I got for you for now until
Well,